Welcome to another year of VASE. We, the TAEA Executive Board and the VASE Blue Ribbon Board, are presenting to you the annual revisions and clarifications of the VASE rules and policies for 2017. Some of the ones presented here are new rules. Some are revised rules. Others are not new rules or revisions, but are clarifications of current rules. The most important thing for you to know: our main goal is for everyone involved in VASE to have a positive and growing experience. This is for all students, teachers, and VASE workers. People are most important, the heart of VASE. Teachers and students are given the greatest understanding in all ways possible. Upholding the VASE standards and rules are just another part of this caring for teachers and students. The intention is to give as much aid, mercy, and leeway as possible, while still maintaining the standards that mirror the state of Texas standards, along with the rules of most of the major student art competitions. The goal for the rules and the upholding of the rules is not a gotcha, but a means for growth. A means for ensuring success through encouraging and maintaining excellence in student artwork and in the school programs that nurture that excellence. This requires both understanding and integrity of standards. The mission of the TAEA Visual Arts Scholastic event is to recognize exemplary student achievement in the visual arts by providing art students and programs a standard of excellence in which to achieve. It's all about people, their success through reaching a standard. Rule change number 1 has to do with sources for artwork. The rules concerning sources that can be used for artwork found in the section on originality have changed. Only original sources, that is, sources original with a student, will be allowed for the entirety of a student artwork. In other words, not only will the main focal point have to have original sources, but even the background will have to have original sources. No published images will be allowed to be used at all. I'm going to spend a few moments helping you understand this rule about sources. The best way to ensure students are using only original sources is to encourage and direct them to compose their artwork or express their idea using objects and imagery that are a part of their own life, imagery that surrounds them. If a student wishes to draw a picture of themselves with wings in order to communicate that they are kind and angelic, suggest that they do it using facial expressions or other available objects rather than feathered wings that might not be available for them to photograph or observe. This forces the students to think and work at a higher learning level as they wrestle with communicating an idea in a different way. If there is no other way for a student to create imagery using what is available around them, there is a way for students to reference an internet or non-original source without it being against the rules and without having to attach the photo of the non-original source to the back of their artwork. If a student wanted to see how something looks, an image could be found of the question part, looked at, then sketched afterwards without looking at or looking back at the non-original source. That is the catch. The student may not look at the referenced non-original image while drawing it. The non-original source must be put away, and the student rely on their memory of what the referenced image looked like. The sketch produced from memory would then have to be attached to the artwork as a source. You might ask, how does this help if they can't make sure the drawing of the referenced part is completely accurate? Remember, complete accuracy is not what should score highest in VASE. Creative originality scores highest. Photorealistic works should never be the highest scoring artworks. Therefore, complete accuracy should not be an issue. Having an idea of how something looks is what is important. Teachers must be very diligent if allowing their students to reference non-original images like this. They would have to make sure the student is not copying the image. They are just to look at it, close the reference, and then draw from memory. It might help if the teacher created a PowerPoint or video of the needed reference for her students, or looked up the reference for the student to make sure that the referenced imagery is closed afterwards. This gives the teacher more assurance that the student is complying with the original source rule. If you can't ensure that this can happen, then don't allow your students to utilize non-original images. Teachers, do not be tempted to allow students to look at these non-original sources while they draw them, thinking that greater accuracy is of highest value. This is against the original source rule. If the student insists on greater accuracy, then suggest they express their artwork in another way, using only original sources. It is very obvious to VASE officials and jurors when a student's very accurate depiction of an object was produced while viewing a non-original source. Do not allow your students to draw directly from a non-original source. Here is an example of how this could have been done in this self-portrait pencil artwork. Number 1, the student had a fellow student take a photo of her posed, which would be a student-directed photo. Then 2, she brought a milk carton from home to use as an observed reference to show her face as a lost child. And finally 3, she made a quick reference to a bird wings on the internet and then drew them using her memory and her own style. The rule change number 2 has to do with teacher-taken photographs. If a student directs a photograph of himself or herself, the teacher may now actually take the photograph. The student must be in the photograph and have directed the composition of the photograph. This is the only time a photograph taken by a teacher may be used. Rule change number 3 has to do with nudity within an artwork. The nudity rule found in the Inappropriate Offensive Works of Art section has been clarified. It now says that this will be prohibited in student artworks, quote, completely exposed female breasts, with or without nipples, imagery of any gender genitalia, including bare buttocks, and are suggestive or explicit sexuality, end of quote. The interpretation for shirtless boys and bare backs and shoulders no longer applies. Rule change number 4 has to do with an added source to be placed on boxes. 3D artworks or 2D artworks with boxes must now have copies of the sources or reference for the artworks attached to the box as well as to artwork itself. In other words, the artwork must have the student intent form and all sources attached to it, and the box must have a picture of the artwork and a copy of the intent form and all sources attached. Rule change number 5 is a clarification of the disqualification due process. A clarification was made in the disqualification due process. This clarification includes the process, along with an explanation for the disciplinary and sanction actions for teachers who either continually violate VASE guidelines or who threaten VASE officials. A brand new rule, number 1, is the largest change in the rules for 2017. It has to do with artwork medium. All designations for artwork medium or media have been removed. In other words, teachers and students will declare if the artwork is 2D or 3D, and that is all. Students will no longer be disqualified if they have declared the wrong medium. This helps in those gray areas where mediums cross, especially when technology is used along with a traditional medium. Our second new rule has to do with 2D or 3D artwork when concerning the 3-inch rule. Along with the removal of medium designations, students and teachers will be allowed to designate an artwork 2D or 3D because the 3-inch depth rule for 2D has been eliminated. However, Within the revised rules, the students and teachers are warned that a non-traditional declaration that an artwork is 3D rather than 2D, or vice versa, 2D rather than 3D, could cause a lowering of rating because the artwork might not meet the traditional criteria. New rule number 3 has to do with dangerous to handle artwork. There is a new rule that forbids an artwork to have any components that are dangerous to handle. New rule number 4 has to do with art studio students. A student enrolled in a full-time outside private art studio must now be automatically considered Division 4 rather than having their division determined by number of art credits. This is the same rule as if the student is AP, IB, or dual credit. The next item is simply a clarification of an existing rule. So it's clarification number 1, and it has to do with weapons that are included in the artwork imagery. This is not a rule change, but a clarification of the rules. In the Inappropriate Offensive Works of Art section of the rules, it says that artworks may not contain images of suicide or criminal violence. It does not say a student can't use the image of a weapon in a still life or in a scene not containing criminal violence. The second rule clarification has to do with artwork frames. A student-constructed frame or box may be used as long as the frame is included as part of the artwork imagery. Our final entry for the 2017 VASE rules has to do with the fact that the rules have been condensed. The rules have been streamlined or condensed. What was 18 pages last year is now 14 pages. This was done through succinct clarification and through eliminating all the information about medium specifications. Have a great VASE year.